Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to this special edition of Focus on Liberia. Every other Sunday, we have Mr. Smith Toby in the house to brief us on what's going on at the executive mansion. By the way, he's the deputy press secretary of the president, and we are so glad to have him. And who better can have Smith in the house besides our politics man? They call him the political bulldog, Mr. Asonisie. Mr. Sie, you
Mr.
watching the
Jad,
program?
yeah, Mr. Jad, I'm doing great. And how is Atlanta?
It's wonderful here. We are still doing quarantinely beautiful.
All right, quarantine the beautiful is the way to go. Mr. Smith, at this time, we want to welcome you to Focus on Liberia. As you know, my name is Anson Sie, based here in Minnesota. I'm happy to say welcome, welcome. How's the homeland?
Well, let me say thanks to you and Ja for again another great opportunity. It is always my pleasing pleasure to be on your platform, a very unique platform. We are again opportune to speak to the people of Liberia in and out of Liberia through your medium. And I bring you greetings from back home, especially from the seat of the presidency, and of course, hoping that we all will continue to keep safe as we are in a very difficult time right now. There is a serious health crisis around the world. I'm sure you guys are having similar situation. Back home in Liberia is of no difference. And so every time we manage to see at this level, we are grateful, and I'm so happy that again on another Sunday I can be here to speak to you and to your audience.
Thank you,
Thank,
Mr. Toby. Welcome, welcome. At the start of the program, we play our music. The white cow trying to undermine the red cow and undermine the black cow. Have any idea who the cows are?
Well, I hope I could speak from the mind of the writer of that song. The white cow, the black cow, honor man, the red or the red cow. So it's I think the writer of the song was being very decorative. He was putting liberal politics into the way
Mm,
he for sure understands it.
right.
I'm sure in time past there have been leaders here who spoken about being undermined uh, as per their leadership. And so the writer of that song or uh, the, the gentleman who came up with that song is trying to narrate what he seemingly understand about Liberia politics.
Mm,
So he's giving us a clue how leadership in our country has been
mm,
undermined or
right.
will continue to be undermined. So I may not get his interpretation right, but we all enjoy the beat of the song. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
song. It's trying to give us some story about our ballot politics, and we are reading between the lines. If the
Thank you.
black cow will be undermined by the white cow or the red cow.
Thank you, Mr. Toby. And do you know if the president watches this program? We want to bring him on.
Well, one thing I know, every time we appeared on a platform like this, it gave the president more attention to follow. So I may not tell you if he's following definitely at this point, but I know that we communicate a lot, and of course, once we speak on behalf of his office, he's equally concerned about the things we talked about. So some of the medium like yours, I'm sure you are followed by people not just within the circle of the presidency, people out there will follow. And once there are notification sparking out here and there, people follow. You don't know who's watching,
Yeah.
so we are very careful as we speak. But once you speak from the office of the president, you are assured that the program is monitored.
Thank you. Mr. Sie.
Mr. Jad, thank you. And folks in cyberspace, we want to say also thank you and thank you for joining us here. Like Mr. Jad said earlier, we are having a Q&A with Deputy Presidential Press Secretary Mr. Smith Toby. This is something we have decided to do every other Sunday so that we can hear from the office of the president about the happenings in the country. In today's edition, it's about pressing national issues. We'll be talking about COVID-19, of course. And the president also make a very huge move by declaring state of emergency. The enforcement of the emergency, how is that going? And on top of that, the president also came up with a stimulus package, following the examples of leaders around the world who are making some economic intervention to alleviate the suffering of the people now that they have been locked down at homes, so as to make life a little easier for them. We'll be looking at that. And we'll be looking at citizen reaction. We'll be looking at institutional reaction. And there is something that came to our attention called bucket campaign. A lot of people are giving buckets with their picture on it. Mr. Toby will answer that question and he will tell me. And then I saw a sample with a project on it. We will get to that also. On that note, Mr. Jai, I am excited and I think I see Toby is comfortably seated. How do we
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, Mr. Toby, we are glad to have you. So let's start like this. We learned of the state of emergency. Okay, that's the first big thing on our mind. We are watching the pictures. We are seeing how things going. So the first thing we want you to tell us is exactly what's the purpose of the state of emergency, and how do the measures put in place or be enforced? How do those measures help to slow down the spread of the virus?
Well, again, let me say thanks to the team and officially extend greetings from the president to the both of you and the rest of the viewers following your broadcast here this evening time here in Liberia. And like you rightly place your question on the state of emergency. You know, the entire world right now is having a health crisis. Liberia is part of the global society, and we are of no exception of situation that are affecting bigger nations, smaller nations, and leaders of the world are trying to keep their citizens safe. The pandemic, as announced by the World Health Organization, when they announced that there was a pandemic that came out of China, when the coronavirus reached that point, it drew the attention of all world leaders. That was to notify leaders that there was a situation happening health-wise, and leaders were advised to put in place measures to prevent their citizens. So those countries that initially got hit try to put in those measures as advised by their professional health experts. Like it's happening in the United States, it's been happening in France, it's been going on in other African countries, and so be Liberia. When Liberia recorded a first index case of the coronavirus pandemic, it became a situation to the seat of the presidency that, hey, at this point in time, we as a country need to put in place those measures that will save the lives of our citizens. And from index case one, it was all about creating more awareness, putting into perspective those measures announced by the WHO, even re-emphasizing those measures like the hand washing, the social distancing, avoiding crowded area. So those were the initial conversation around the coronavirus pandemic. But when the cases started to pop out from one to two, two to three, it became scary and alarming. Like you see other nations around the world, they've shut down their states, they've shut down their countries. And the purpose for that is to bring about health sanity, to bring about civility in the health sector. Liberia is a country challenged with a lot of different situations. All of the institutions in our country are challenged. especially our health sector. Even though we fought Ebola and we had some implements or some equipment in our reserve,
Right.
but when the news of this started, the government became concerned and started holding series of different meetings,
Right.
putting our preparedness and holding those consultations with our health authority to see how prepared we were as a country. So when we got hit and the numbers started to increase, the government thought that the best thing to do was for the president, who is the commander in chief, to institute some very drastic measure.
Right.
And that measure,
Mr. Toby, if I may interrupt, can we go straightly to the state of emergency, the purpose and how those measures addresses the situation?
so the purpose of the state of emergency, as announced by the president, is to curtail the rights of Liberians in certain level, in making sure that there is a hands-on approach by all institutions of government in combating the coronavirus pandemic. Like I was just trying to back that, but it is intended to put in place a very secure formula as advised by the health practitioners that will slow down the virus in terms of the way it is spread through um, crowds, stopping people from going to work, restricting people, a certain gathering, and restricting movement of people. Those steps included into the state of emergency is intended to prevent Liberians from spreading the virus further, because as we speak, our health practitioners are reporting on a daily basis that we are having community spread now. It is no longer people coming from out of the country that are bringing in the virus. The virus have now transcended into the communities.
Right.
So to have a state of emergency that stop people from moving in large numbers,
right,
from going to places in gathering, from going to weddings and funerals, will help to reduce the spread of the virus and to give chance to those health authority to focus on how they combat this daily virus.
So Mr. Toby, one thing that is very noticeable about this state of emergency is people should be off the street by 3 p.m. How does that help? Does that mean that the virus is not active up until 3 p.m. local
Well,
time?
I think the way people understood the president's state of emergency address in the initial point brought in the 3 o'clock, from 6 to 3 o'clock, that we now see as people approaching the discussion around the state of emergency. But on your platform, I can even be very frank to tell you that there are now discussions around the table that the country may shut the go into a total lockdown for 7 days. The last time I spoke to the president about this situation, he's been very concerned about the way some have taken me out between morning hours to 2 o'clock, and some people are directly in knowing those measures of not gathering, people that stayed assembling in numbers, or under the disguise that they are fetching for food, which of course is a complete violation of what is said to prevent the spread of the virus. And there are current discussions around the table that there will be a total lockdown in some days to come, so that we will remain focused as a country and as a government to make sure that this situation is handled by those who are frontliners, those who are health workers, so that people will not be distracted by people on the street. So now, in the last few weeks, it's been 6 to 3, seems to be the rush hour, but I'm not sure it's going to continue in that direction in a matter of days ahead of us.
All right, Smith, let's look at, I read the president's letter to the national legislature in which he outlined, what he's asking for that constitutes the state of emergency. And something I read about an hour being given, uh, one person per household to go out to fetch for food. It is stated right in there clearly. And my question is, in your opinion, or in the president's opinion, is 1 hour sufficient for an individual per family head to go out and get food?
So when you are having emergency situation, you plan your movement in time. So the president do expect that if you are leaving your house and you got an hour allotted to you, you go for specifics. So you wouldn't want to leave your house knowing that you got an hour to go and stay thinking of what you're going out and about for. So it is assumed that an hour is sufficient for a family head to leave his home and knowing very well that he's going, for example, to a grocery store to get items specifically for his family, and that seems to be much of a time. When people are in emergency, it is not a normal situation. It is not of buying time. It is for safety. It is for
Smith,
it is for people.
Mr. Toby, I understand that. May I interrupt you? I
Yes,
understand
go ahead.
that. You said 1 hour when you have an emergency, something that poses threat to your life and your family life, it is something you have to take serious. I get that. But I'm talking about how realistic is that for an individual who does not have a car. I live in Nikrutan. If you live all the way in Lagoon and you have to walk to Douala, it will take you about 20 minutes to get there. How much time do you have? Because 20 minutes to go, 20 minutes to come, that's 40 minutes. All right. So you don't, in that time, you don't have most time, to find food and rush back. So I don't know how they came up with their 1 hour per family head, to go and get food. It's not insufficient in my opinion.
So what have happened in recent days is that people are rather doing community markets. In
Okay.
every community in our environment, people are doing those little food market. Right now, people are now going to market to buy or building materials, even though as of the storm on yesterday, the government have once again um, allowed people to go to get building materials. But people are doing little food shopping in the various communities. That will give you ample time. If you are living in West Point, you stay around the West Point area and find food for your family. There's no need to leave from West Point to come to Rare Light in Painesville that will take you even more than an hour to get. So
Thank you.
people are encouraged to make use of those little community markets, and, for an hour of shopping of food, fetch for food, so that they can sustain the family. But right now, there's nothing called normal shopping. There's no normal movement. That those are the things that come along with
Great.
when there exists an emergency situation.
Thank
And
you.
it is for people to abide by those very simple but important guidelines for safety.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toby. Here's where I come in. That's why I went back to the purpose of it, right? So we
Yeah.
have this coronavirus being spread person to person.
Mhm.
Somebody sneezes, we have to be, that's why the whole idea of social distancing. So
Mhm.
if you give 1 hour, because the time 1 hour, it can even be 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. If 500 persons take that 1 hour and congregate in Douala Market, how does that help to stop it? My next question is, you said 3 o'clock. So it means before 3 o'clock, we can still congregate, we can still not observe our social distancing, we can still be together. So the timing for me doesn't really matter. It's not about time, it's not about how fast you run to Douala and back. It's about the spread of the virus from person to person. So how does 1 hour or starting the lockdown at 3 p.m., how does it stop the spread?
As people leave their homes, they are advised to go by those safety tips. People are not told to go into the markets and put the entire structure or be vulnerable as they walk to the street. Even in supermarkets or grocery stores that are open, people are not allowing more than 10 persons in at a time. So before you enter those places, you go through your hand washing, your temperature is being checked, and people are allowed into those areas in very small numbers. People who are going to the banks are also being advised to not assemble in huge numbers. People who are going to the open market are also being advised to make sure that they don't assemble in those huge numbers. We know that it's been a very difficult thing, to be frank. People stay in a rush. People stay assembled in the numbers. That is why in the most recent days there's been security at some of those crowded markets to make sure that people would not assemble in a very huge number, because the issue of social distancing is very important. The issue of people not assembling in huge number is a very serious issue, and no one out there should know this. That is why the government is still talking to the citizens. Even
All right.
though you are to leave your homes to go out to find food, do those things that are being mentioned for your own safety.
Thank you. Let's talk about the enforcement of it, bringing in our security personnel, the entire security apparatus in the enforcement aspect of the SOE. Uh, you are aware of allegations, videos out there about police being heavy-handed on citizens. I've seen some of those videos. I've seen people getting, hit to an extent that they're losing blood. uh, so it is evidence out there, and no one should be able to deny it. I would think that we not honor a curfew. So why would somebody be manhandled when they are in front of their house to the point that they have to lose blood? And is there anything being done to the security personnel who are responsible for brutality? Are they being held accountable?
So I know that some of our security people that have handled the situation from the initial start at a very rough approach. So on day one, there was situation. Of course, that was a very big concern for the president. Those reports, like you see it, is also being reported to the president. Those actions by some state security and even some people who's been impersonating as security are all concerned that the joint security has been working on. So the way the situation started in day one, I'm not sure was the same situation in day two. And what happened in day two was not the same as in day three. So as those situations develop, it's always been handled appropriately. There was one situation in the last 2 days with the AFL, for example. The gentleman who was heading the team is now going on a very thorough investigation by the army. The chief of staff has ordered his investigation. So out of those places where there's been security lapses on the approach to civilian, the appropriate institutions are handling those situations. Those individuals involved in the situation are being taken off normal duty and they are investigated. When the entire curfew got announced, there were boss cars, for example, who was in the street, who
Did
was
you
also.
did you say curfew?
I said when the state of emergency was being announced,
Oh no, you
there was
said curfew. Maybe you misspoke.
okay. So
Yeah.
when the boss, when the state of emergency
Mhm,
were being announced,
mhm.
there was boss cars, for example, who felt that they were part of the joint security. They were out there enforcing. They were telling people it was curfew. They were chasing people on the front porches. They were telling people to go in. Those
And
reports.
quickly, what your interpretation that they felt that they needed to be there? Somebody might have informed them that you need to add. They were giving instruction. I didn't think they just jumped that.
Well, I think uh, I don't understand, but I know the joint security setup of the joint security,
Mhm.
that structure. The Boy Scout are not a part of the joint security structure. So
Right.
even if you list the security apparatus on the country, the Boy Scouts are not there. But how they got the information, what the communication to them were, and how they got included, later on that got corrected. Now they are no longer part of the enforcement. similar situation with the city police. They got involved. Now they've been restricted to doing um, uh, their
What's that?
city ordinance,
Okay.
doing their city ordinance, and not being enforcer of state security job. So there was some security
Yeah.
lapses, but the joint security have settled those things.
Mhm.
Those who are still infiltrating, there have been some individuals who have infiltrated by wearing police uniform and manhandling civilian. Some of them have been arrested. They've been investigated. So those situations that have led to some of the reports you've seen and heard
Mhm.
have been handled by the joint security. I'm very sure that we are making progress as we continue to enforce the state of emergency.
And
So,
lastly,
so
something I
Mr.
didn't
Toby,
hear. Hold on, Mr. Ja. Lastly, one thing I was looking for from the leadership was a statement from either the office of the president or those in charge of security to, send a strong statement out that I look, those security who are doing this thing, all right, they need to stop. I mean, what I'm trying to say, there was no statement whatsoever. Everybody just
And
let it slide. Why is that so?
no,
That is
that's
not
not,
leadership,
no,
isn't it?
no, no, that's not the fact. The police have spoken about this. You've
Okay,
heard the police. The police have made some very serious statements, even about those who be infiltrating,
okay,
about people who even wore police uniform and pretended to be police officers.
okay,
There's been some bike riders who were even arrested with police uniform and they are not police officers.
okay.
When the situation happened with the lady and the AFL soldier that led to her sustaining a wound,
Yeah,
the deputy for the administration went to the scene. He went to provide apology to the family, and the officer was arrested. So there's been statement on those security agency website and Facebook pages
thank you.
telling people telling people about some of these situations and how they've handled them. The police spokesman has been speaking about it. The army has been talking about it, and the entire joint security have tried to re-strategize on this entire enforcement issue, something for which the president is equally concerned about.
Thank you. Mr.
so
Ja.
Mr. Toby, exactly who's supposed to be out there, and what exactly are they supposed to be doing?
Well, I know that there's a whole joint security that enforces the stay home order by the president, and their function is to allow people to stay home and not to roam the street. It's not to say stay home and don't roam your yard. So people sit in front of their homes. They are already at home, but people should not be on the street. So those who are on the street after the stipulated time are the ones that are the violators. But when you sit in front of your house and you are having time with your family, you already at home. So the security is to clear people off the street and make sure that the street is clear so that the ambulances and of course the health workers and other essential staff who are doing health related job um, are the ones who are to be out and about and making sure that they stay focused on the combat of the COVID-19.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you just joined us, this is Focus on Liberia. We have the Deputy Presidential Press Secretary, Mr. Smith Toby, with us, and we are discussing the state of emergency, the stimulus package, and everything in between. Pretty soon, we'll be opening our phone lines. The number to call is right there on your screen, and we're going to be reading some comments. But let's first go into the stimulus package, and then we read some comments and open our phone lines. Mr. Sear.
Thank you. And so the president sent a request to the national legislature requesting for some money as a stimulus package so that our people can have rice, trying to give the citizens us incentive, to stay home. And that request has been ratified, and we heard about a $25 million for rice. We also heard about 15 million for loan for people who have small businesses and took loan from banks. And we also heard about other things on importation and all that. And so let's go step by step. Let's start with the issue of the rice. My first question is, does this government have it in terms of credibility to handle this rice issue? And second question is, why is it that the president in his request was talking about designated communities when he had locked the whole country down in a SOE, and the lawmakers have to correct that. Say no, you lock the whole country down, so everybody have to benefit. And lastly, we talk about the
But let's
okay,
if you bump the question like that, I may not remember everything.
all right, quickly.
So saying let's take it one at a time. So let's go back to your first question. That you can come with the second question and
Okay.
maybe your follow up question.
Mhm.
So let me go back to your first question on the issue of the rice. The first thing, the president, knowing very well that the country is indeed having a very serious situation. And when the president first announced the state of emergency, you saw that some people came about and they started to say, oh, the president was announcing the state of emergency without announcing any stimulus package and what have you. Again, what the president thought to do was to announce a state of emergency, drawing the nation attention to the level we currently sit in this fight against the coronavirus. So the president sent that communication outlining what he wanted to see happen during the state of emergency.
Mhm.
The national legislature could not assemble to discuss just the mere state of emergency without a waiting working document as to how the state of emergency were going to go into function. What were the issues expected to happen during the time of the state of emergency? So the lawmakers were waiting for the president to communicate to them. And so the president had to hold series of different meetings with other international players and actors in our ballot politics to prepare a working document, submitted that document to the national legislature, laying out what he proposed to happen during the stay home and during the time of the state of emergency. The president locked the 15 counties down, granted, but now all of the 15 counties are staying at home, like what is happening in Mosorado, Nima, Margibi, and Grand Cru. So we got 4 counties that are doing stay at home. We got 15 the rest of the counties are doing quarantine. So the counties that are doing quarantine are not allowing travels, inter-travel. So if you are in Granjile, you are not leaving from Granjile to go to Nimba because that county is quarantine. You are not leaving from Granjile to go to Maryland. So there are some counties that are quarantine, and there are some counties that are also doing stay at home. So for Mangibi and Mosorado, they are one county. Nima, Grand Cru are separate counties. Those counties have, because the reported cases are currently popping up from those counties. You got cases coming in from Mosorado, Mangibi, Grand Cru, I'm told, and of course Nima County, as compared to the other counties, even though they are on a quarantine. So in the president proposal on the rest issue, those counties that are having stay at home, like the 4 counties, were the concentrated counties that the president initially proposed. Again, because we found ourselves in a political area, I'm sure I must stay on. I'm having some.
Yeah, you are still on. We can hear you. Go ahead, Smith.
So because we having found ourselves in a political theater with the national legislature, it was also prudent. It was a president proposal, and the legislature had the right to tighten the screw or to keep it loose as the president maybe sent it to them or saw it on the contrary. So the president proposal was that since we got counties that are having stayed at home, those counties that are concentrated in reporting the cases, we should concentrate on the distribution of the food. But again, the lawmakers saw that on the contrary, and it said that in their thinking, the distribution should go across the country. But again, in the president proposal, he submitted to them that for this to happen, there will be a committee set up, and the distribution will be headed by the World Food Program, which of course is noted for food distribution uh, around. So that proposal also identify the lead in terms of food distribution. The national legislature has the right to accept the president proposal or to adjust the president proposal or to refuse the president proposal. So on the first line item that became a talking point, were being considered from the political theater with all, because our lawmakers will not want the citizens to feel that they haven't advocated for them when they talk about food distribution, especially rice distribution. So some people think that they will take the blame if the county were left out of food distribution and the citizen will hold them responsible. So they had to advocate the way they did. But again, in the president proposal, he was thinking about the 4 counties or the counties that are doing stay at home as compared to the counties that are doing quarantine.
Mr. Toby, you just mentioned the World Food Program. When I read that in the president letter, I cringed. How can we be in our country on this situation and we outsource food distribution to World Food Program? Does the government or the country don't have that capacity to divide rice?
Again, like you rightly said, helping people with structure. The World Food Programs being here has shown that they have local staffs here. They are Liberians who run the WFP currently. And based on their structure, the government will want to make use of that structure for the smooth implementation. Because again, I hear people talking about the implementation and trust issue. Even though the president finally, upon the approval of the national legislature with all of the counts, has once again constituted a whole committee. But in that committee, you still see the WFP because they will be the lead in terms of the distribution. Other supporting arms will have to look at the structure that is set up by the WFP, where of course we are informed that Liberians are the ones heading the WFP currently, and it's going to be a project for implementation, and we'll see how far they go to go about doing that.
Smith.
I find that very unfortunate, but we call this a stimulus package, right? How does it stimulate the economy?
This time around, it is not about the economy.
So it's not a stimulus. It's not a stimulus.
The stimulus, it is not stimulating the economy. Right now, what is taking place in terms of affecting the economy of our country is saving the lives of the Liberian people. So what is considered stimulus for you when people are giving you physical cash in the United States and sending money to your paycheck or to your meal from their economy? What the government is doing here is taking money out of the economy and providing food for its citizens, even though civil servants.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a stimulus. It's just an assistance.
Even though civil servants are being paid, and the government is making sure that government employees are being paid, for those who are staying at home under these difficult times, who are in quarantine or who are in those affected counties, staying at home is a difficult thing, and the government thinks that reaching out to its citizens is a way of what the president proposed.
And Smith, I'm just thinking harder here. There is a $25 million noise that's still hanging around, and now we're talking about another $25 million for rice. Is the president learning a lesson here that the last time I make a request for $25 million, it didn't go too well, so this time around I don't trust my boys? Is he learning something?
Well, I'm not sure it is about making mistakes or not trusting people. The noise of the alleged 25 million that you reference, it's been a discussion around for a very long time. Again, there's this $25 million that you see everyone seem to be opening their eyes on it. From the structure of the President Committee, it also tells you how committed the President wants to see this happen. So even representatives of civil society, representatives from political parties, representatives from the religious community were all included on the committee that will work with the $25 million. As to the previous $25 million, I'm not sure that's the kind of committee you had. So
Okay.
it also tell you, so it also speak to you that the issue of transparency and the issue of to curtail the claim and counterclaim, all sector have made their way to that committee.
All right.
Even the CPP
Mhm.
and all of the major actors in our body politics, the
Mhm.
national legislature, the
Mhm.
judiciary. So we have people who are part and parcel of the working of that $25 million. How are they going to get the rights? How the committee intend to set up distribution point? That will be a committee decision. What the
Okay.
president uh, did propose and approved by the national legislature is that in these difficult times, there should be some assistance to the Liberian people. Good that the national legislature concur with the president on it. And now it's time for the committee members that are also part of the society to now draw up a workable formula so that people will benefit. It should not come back after a few weeks and we'll start to hear about misapplication and noise around because
All
this
right.
time around,
When that time
this
comes,
time,
Smith will talk about the noise because we always talk about noise here. What I want to know now is the country now being locked down for a
Mr.
week
Smith.
now, and yeah, Mr. John.
Yeah, well, let's after your question, so we can go to the comments and then we get our callers on the line as well. So go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you. And Smith, the essence of the whole package, okay, these people are staying indoors. Let's get them something to find a reason to stay indoor. 1 week has gone. How soon the people going to get this rice? Any idea?
well, I think that those are some of the questions the national legislature asked, and you know that they've extended this to additional 60 days.
Mhm.
So there's an extension now. Is going to give the entire committee some days to work and as to when they start to meet and put words to action to make sure that there is a draw, a layout plan as to how they get the money, how they'll get the rights, how they will distribute the food items. It is now with the committee. But again, the initial state of emergency or lockdown was pronounced for 21 days. The national legislature thought that that was so much of a limited time. They've extended it beyond almost 2 months to go. So that's so much of a time that we hope that the committee will work with all of the urgency to make sure that they can reach out to the needed.
All right. Let me go to our comments. We have and right after the comments, we have some callers on the line. The first question here is from Mr. Anthony Gay. He said, "Will government officials like Mr. Toby get this food?" Lucien Jabate say, "Host, give the man chance to speak." Mr. Sia, we've been cautioned here to give Mr. Toby a chance to speak.
Okay,
Dave
I
John
will.
says, "Who is eligible to get the food aid? Are minister, legislators, and other who doing well be eligible?" Musu Stewart say, "How was the 25 million stimulus derived? Who did the math? Do we have a census report?" Al Toby, probably not a relations of you, Mr. Toby, because he said, "I think Smith is not well informed nor abreast about the process. It is becoming more difficult for him to explain in details, the wrong person to represent the government on this platform." Okay, Janet Menye said the man is only trying to keep us in the know, talking about Mr. Toby now. "Please let us try to be respectful regardless what our personal beliefs and issues are." Musu again says the World Food Program should not be involved. I share the same sentiment, Mr. Toby. "We have to learn ourselves or fire the corrupt people." One last comment before we open the phone lines. Derek, Derek, does the president know about the students and Liberians being maltreated by the Chinese people in China? If so, what is the measure the president is putting in place to rescue them? Another person was asking about the whereabouts of the first lady. I think there have been rumors that she's not in the country. So another person is asking, where is the first lady? Mr. Toby.
Okay, so let me pick to attempt to answer a few of the question. Uh, the first lady, like the um, um, individual asked about, um, yes, she's not in country. The president left the country prior to the coronavirus outbreak. There was a situation with her son in his professional soccer career. He sustained injury. He had to go on the surgery, and the mother thought to be by his side, and she left the country. She's been out. She's currently in the U.S. With her family, and she's been communicating back home. She's done some very good support message on this combat of the coronavirus. That message has been played on local radio stations, again creating awareness. So she's been out of the country for a while, and
We would like to have him. We would like to have her here on Focus on Liberia.
well, there's a whole communication team around the office of the first lady. I can allow you talk to Mr. Arthur Douglas someday so that he can arrange that for you. There was a question on the WFP. I'm sure the reason why the WFP is being included because they have a module or there's a formula that they've used in our country for a very long time during our heydays of struggle here during the war. So that formula seemed to be a working formula, and their inclusion is going to help to bring again accountability and transparency to the process. I'm sure it is based on that backdrop that they were included into the formation of the committee that will carry out the distribution. There was a gentleman or a text that said that I'm not abreast. I'm sure I'm giving you what I'm informed about as it relates to the issue. I may not be speaking for the comfort of the individual listening, but I'm also trying to communicate to you what I'm aware of, and based on my information, I'm sending out those information to the audience here. Again, it is left for individuals to believe, um, to not believe. People are left with their own opinion on the issue. So again, we are happy that we're doing a piece of job in helping to communicate some of the issues that are before us and questions that are asked on the specific issue.
Yeah.
For the issue on the government preparedness and readiness to make sure that this stimulus package is properly implemented to the letter. The committee now has a job to do. That committee will be responsible to coordinate all of the other related activities leading to their affairs. The full package is not for me. It is not for the government officials. It is not for the cabinet ministers. It is not for people in the diplomatic circle. It is for people in those affected counties, even though we live in the affected counties, but the government officials will not be queuing in line to receive the food that the government is giving out to the most needed at this very crucial time.
Yeah, Mr. Smith,
So
I
who
think it's
qualifies?
safe to say it's for all the counties because that's how the legislature ratified it.
Yeah, so if that what the legislature ratified for the 15 counties, then it goes across as per the approved document from the national legislature.
So who qualifies? Should you be at certain income level, or what is the yardstick in determining who gets the food?
Well, again, I'm sure that the initial direction for that distribution was that give it to those very low income communities. If you got people living in West Point, Lockingtown, Pupo Beach, other very low income community and other places where you got orphanage home, disadvantaged community and what have you. Now that there's a committee set up, that committee will draw out the guideline as to who qualify to
Yeah,
receive the full ration.
that's fair. And I must we are there was a person who said you would not qualify. We at Focus on Liberal believe or your ability, and that's why we brought you here, and we respect and thank you so much for coming. We have confidence that you are providing us with what you know about what's going on.
All right, Mr. Toby, let us move to a segment here that you will love
Can
because
I
it,
bring in the colors now, Mr. Sear?
all right, let's do some colors.
Yeah, our colors are sometimes
Before,
when we don't.
before the caller, I think he want to introduce one thing maybe that I would love before we take the calls. What is it?
It is about regular updates. Your job. You fall in that line. I wanted to know how the government is doing because we see government around the world that do daily press conferences to update their people. We are not in a normal situation, but you continue with your normal Thursday press briefing as a government, and I think you're dropping the ball here. That's how I feel. We don't see the
What
president. We see president for almost all the countries, coming to the microphone. When will our president come to the microphone?
what the president was just on the microphone
When?
a few weeks back.
Oh,
So
you're
when the
talking about a
president
few
announced
weeks?
when the president announced the state of emergency, he was on the microphone. Now you're talking about regular update. Other countries, there's every country has its own approach to this coronavirus fight. Some people are using the health expert. That is why in our setting
Mhm.
there is a daily update that comes from the Ministry of Health.
Mhm.
There's a media briefing that comes on every Mondays and Thursdays. That briefing brings together all of the hands-on uh, experts from the Ministry of Health, the NTHIL, the Ministry of Information. So they are equally briefing the nation and its people and foreign residents about the day-to-day activities of what is taking place in the country. So they also brief the president. They are briefing the country. And the president is equally communicating with others, partners out there to make sure those things that are needed are brought in country for the purpose of combating this COVID-19. It is not about the president coming on the microphone to speak, but is the
Well,
president is
Mr.
the
Tobe,
president holding those
I beg to interrupt. We want to
yeah,
see the
yeah,
president. No, the thing,
want to see the president.
the reason,
Why
my
you want to see
brother,
the president
is
speak every day? Why you think the president to speak every day?
what is wrong with that? Others are
So
doing
what
it
is
because we
so
are not
no
in a normal
it is
situation,
no
Smith.
no
We
yeah,
are
but
not in a
because
normal situation.
granted, but if you are not in a normal situation,
Mhm.
it is not equally normal for the president to speak to you every day.
But
So
every
others
week.
are doing it, or
But
in Liberia, it's
because
not normal.
no, because you see others doing it,
Mhm.
I'm not sure you've seen besides you seeing Donald Trump, uh, who's having his regular warehouse briefing with CNN and other media outlets. You are not seeing Emmanuel Macron doing that every day.
Okay.
You don't see other presidents speak to the media every day. So your case in America may be different from other countries and their leaders.
All right. That answered my question. Let's go to our callers. Mr. Ja.
Trying to on.
All right, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is a primetime Sunday special, and we are having with us Mr. Smith Tobe, who is the Deputy Press Secretary for the President of the Republic of Liberia, and we are having what we term as Q&A with Smith Tobe. Mr. Ja, how we looking there?
I'm not able to unmute. So this is strange.
You mean from Zoom?
No,
I
I'm
can
trying to
unmute
unmute
somebody.
myself.
Let me unmute was the longest. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Anthony Gay. Let's see what happened. I'll mute Anthony Gay. Let's see.
Anthony Gay, you are live. Question or comment? 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And Smith, Minister Toby, and for your minister title there. Thank you very much for coming on the
I mean,
show.
so
I have been a follower. Assistant
go ahead.
Minister, no, Assistant Press Secretary, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been a follower of you when you were on OKFN. I have you on my notification on Facebook, so I follow you. You're one of those that was very forceful before you came into government. This state of emergency, is it a curfew or a lockdown? The number two question that I have for you is that you were one of those who was very advocating for the 25 million map up exercise to be brought down to the bottom, that we should know how the money was spent and how it was spent down to the detail. Are you satisfied with the GSU report that came out, and are you pleased with what has transpired with this $25 million? Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. Mr. Smith, you can take that one.
You know,
That won't
let
choke.
me.
I was just
No,
about to say that won't choke you.
no, not at all. You know,
Okay.
I like the way people. I like the way sometimes people reference my time on the media,
History is sweet, my man.
and you know, I still feel passionate about it,
Mhm.
and I do miss it a lot. But again, we are serving the country in a very different position.
Mhm.
Like you rightly said, the $25 million issue. I was the first journalist, if not the very first, that broke this to the country when I spoke to Mr. Philip Brown. So I followed that discussion very well. Even up to the time that I left mainstream media to work for the government, I've also followed the discussion. But from where I sit currently in my position, all I read is what I believe currently because I've read the report that have come in from the GAC. I've read the report that have equally been submitted to the public through the various audits that were conducted. So based on those reports, I have drawn my conclusion. Again, in my position, I may not think like you are currently and wanting me to give you my view on the $25 million. I've seen a report that have outlined or spoken about what happened during the exercise. It is still something that some Liberians still don't believe. Again, what we believe is what we have read. So I'm taking the report that is a public document as my reliance currently. On the lockdown issue
And
or
what is your
carefeed issue,
what is your conclusion that a dime didn't go missing? I want to know.
what there's been
Thank you.
the, the report has spelled out the function and the way the map up took place. So they've said, I still hear people say the entire $25 million. The government itself have said to you it did not use the entire $25 million. It said there was some amount that were being used for the purpose of the map up exercise. So based on that funding on that report is my reliance. They haven't said to us that they used the entire $25
So
million.
maybe you have not answered my question. My question is, in your opinion, based on what you
Mhm,
read,
mhm.
do you think a dime did not go missing? I
Well,
mean,
that's what I'm saying. Based on what I read, the document did not tell me that there was a $25 million that was being used in totality.
no, I'm
But we
talking
still
about a
talk about
dime. I'm not talking about entire amount. In your opinion, not a single dime went missing.
well, for me, I don't see it like you see it.
Okay, thank you.
Like
Let's take another one. Let's
he
take the
was
man.
he
Let
was responding to the next question of Gay on the
Yeah,
lockdown.
on the curfew or lockdown.
oh
What I
yes,
know
yes.
of,
Hmm.
and what is being announced
Hmm.
is a lockdown. There is no announcement anywhere that talk about curfew. So we know that there's a lockdown in the country and not a curfew because the government itself has never announced a curfew at any point in time. What the government has announced through the president is a lockdown.
Let's go to the next caller, Mr. CA.
All right, that would be Anthony Doe. Anthony, speak.
Hey, Mr. C and Mr. Jazz, thank you for your service to our country. How you doing, Mr. Toby?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And how are you?
I'm doing all right. So I call you guys from Georgia, precisely Norcross, Jimmy Carter Boulevard. And my concern have been drawn to the $25 million that is to be passed by the House. or WFP or WFP distribution. I have a concern that has to do with the previous $25 million. And again, I want to refer Mr. Toby to his time at OKFN.
Oh,
So
God.
they need to understand that
Hmm.
to save your country is a whole different thing. And now he's talking for government, but he always wants to mix it with politics. We understand that. I want Toby to tell us what happened to the previous $25 million and what's going to happen to this $25 million now that is being passed by the lawmakers. How can we clear the map? Mr. Jai always says use old map to form a new one. So how can we do that? How can we reconcile the two? Number two is the issue of the first lady. We are concerned. We in the diaspora, we are very much concerned. The first lady son is not in the United States. Let's Toby just said on your podcast. She's in European circle. She's in the United States. And you tell her because the guy had an injury, 18-year-old or more guy had an injury. He was a full-grown man. His mother got to be by his side and left the Liberian people with all the humanitarian money that was given to her. And you want us to believe it. Please explain to us what's happening there.
Thank you.
Another thing is we see lawmakers in our country. They are carrying on projects, building institutions like the other guy, Sir Joseph. We see Prince Johnson. Who's giving this guy the permit to be able to build all these institutions? How can we be able to, let's say, have the institution function if that is not in line with what government wants? And where is getting all this money from? Now, government cannot undertake building institution for our people, but we see individual lawmakers, including our own directors below, trying to build place for Zogo and stuff. Can we reconcile this? Is that how government is run? Because we in the diaspora, we don't see
Thank
government
you.
being run that way. Government have institutions that are responsible for these things. Another recommendation I want to make for Toby is when you go home today, there's a movie on Netflix called Morning Hit. Look at that movie. That's how we're going to turn Liberia into. We're going to distribute Liberia resources to the ordinary people because we in the diaspora, we are plenty. Liberia has enough of trouble. And you guys in government does not see the need to serve the people, but to serve yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Toby, I know this question is going to come over and over. The people are saying when snake bite you, Warren said you're scared. The first 25 million, they were not satisfied. Here, another 25 million. And you know how Henry Pedro Costa put it? He said if you give Monkey a truck full of banana to go distribute. So talk to us about that.
Mr. Jab, before Smith come in, I think Smith have exhausted himself on the previous 25 million. I don't think he's going to get any other different answer. So
Yeah.
let him answer the other ones.
You're talking for
No,
Smith, man?
but I think the question the gentleman is asking me, my take on the current 25 and the previous 25 that he made mention of. The current 25 is yet to even come out, and you are aware that there is a very big committee that is going to work on this current 25 million that the president is talking about. On the first $25 million, it was a map up. It was a team not as huge as this current $25 million is, and I'm very sure based on some of the conversation that came out of the first $25 million, and to avoid that similar discussion around the current $25 million that had to do with the disbursement or the purchase of rice and supply for the people. That is why you see a very huge committee that is going to work on that current $25 million that the president is requesting, and that is going to give more independent, more ability to the team that will work because like you said, you use the old mat to plant the new mat. So maybe based on what happened and what the conversation came out of the past $25 million, Liberians are now raising the same question, and they are hoping that another $25 million will be properly accounted for if the past $25 million weren't properly accounted for. Maybe this current $25 million with all of the expertise and individuals working on this one could ease some of the conversation around the $25 million. On your question about the absence of the first lady, like I said to you, emphatically that she's been out of the country long before the corona outbreak hit Liberia. And the only explanation I can give that I'm aware of is that yes, while it is true that her son is of age, but he's also a child of of his parents. And when he had a situation, you telling me that he's not in the United States. I know that he's in the United States with his mother. Now you tell me that he's in Europe. I know that his mother is in the United States and he's been undertaking treatment after his surgery. So except you want me to tell you something that I'm not aware of, but what I am aware of is what I'm sending out to you. And she's been there, even in her absence, what you claim to be funding to our office, those funding to our office. If you come back in country, if you're following our media out here, she's not here. Her office is also reaching out to the elderly. Her office is making impact in terms of food distribution to orphanage homes and of course less fortunate people. Our office is also involved into doing messages. Those things are not being done on a pro bono basis. It's being paid for, and the money comes from the office of the First Lady. There's a whole office that is being run by the First Lady, whether she's in country or not. And she's involved in the fight against the coronavirus, whether she's in country or not.
Thank you. And Mr. Toby, keep it short. We got a lot of callers, and we want you to have the opportunity to interact with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
there was a last question on the legislators spending money and doing huge projects. The caller was concerned.
But for me, I don't know where the legislatures are taking the money from. So I see people doing separate projects. You see all sort of different initiatives and individual ownership or individual approach to the fight. One thing I know is that everyone is fighting coronavirus. So whether they're taking food to the communities or they are carrying it into the districts, they are carrying it with a message that they are identifying with the people. And it's a common fight. There's a common enemy that everyone needs to fight. So if it is Senator Prince Johnson or it is Senator Barney Sherman or is the vice president, they are all going to their respective communities or constituents and carrying a message and identifying with the people. It is not about who's involved in the fight. It is how collective we can all do it to succeed, in our individual fight to save the country.
All right, let's bring in this caller. Kesali, your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tia and Mr. Jack. And I want to say thanks to Smith Toby for taking his time out to be on some of these programs. Though some of the answers he gave us are sometimes questionable, but for the fact that you take your time out to be here on some of these things, I want to appreciate it, and that at least we can hold you by something that you say on some of these programs. And I have two questions. But first of all, before I go to my questions, I am one person who is a critic of this government. I have never, from the onset of the government, ever praised this government for anything she's ever done. Reason for the fact that the government officials started enriching themselves very early. And until they can get account of where they acquired those access from, I mean, they still have it to contend with. Especially when it comes to the housing project of Georgia we are, and some of the government officials with 25 million and 16 billion Liberian dollars. But in recent times, I want to give the government a pat on the back for two things. One, the committee that was just set up by the president on this virus issue to help with the right distribution. Why it is true that I don't want to take it 100%, but for the fact that it is a mixture of other people from the civil society and other political parties, I want to give the president on the back for that. And he was smart in this regard by listening to whoever gave him the other side. And my second one, we had to go to the city mayor. Though he has been lackadaisical a whole lot in doing his job, we were posted on several occasions. I mean, this is the right time for him to do his job. With the people indoor at 2 o'clock, the markets are all empty. They are all free. We still have daylight. He can use his time to do most of the cleaning that he's done. And I want to tell him thank you at least for listening to us thus far.
Thank you.
And of course, my question has to do with having said that with the virus.
Be very brief.
People are saying that this coronavirus thing should be politicized. This coronavirus thing should be politicized. And I want to tell him thank you at least for listening to us thus far. And of course, my question has to do with having said that with the virus. People are saying that this coronavirus thing should be politicized. This coronavirus thing should be politicized. And I want to tell him thank you at least for listening to us thus far. We agree with that. Everyone has said it over and over and again. But I see the president having his own project. His picture, almost everything that is out there that has to do with the virus. I see every government official doing the same thing. And you guys within the ruling party keep telling us we shouldn't politicize this virus issue. I mean, can you please address yourself to that, Mr. Toby? Thank you very much, Steve and Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, he asking for the president that we ask project, the sun that we ask project, the bucket that we ask project, the sambo that we ask project. Is we are running campaign?
No, he's not. He's not running. He's not running campaign. I'm not sure this is the time to do anything political or to attach a political theme to a very serious situation that is affecting the world. I think in every communication there is a way to approach people who believe in you and people who follow your ideology. And this is not the first time that we've seen donation here from individuals that carried their picture or carried their names. Even during the heat of the Ebola situation in our country, people undertook similar initiatives. There were distributions by lawmakers, there were distribution by political leaders with their names and their pictures on those things that they gave out to the people. I'm not sure they were doing it because they were running campaign or they were running, um, um, they were being political about their contribution. I think the president has a project, and like you see, uh, what he considered as his project is to make sure that there's a message out there that Liberians will understand. When the president redid the song that he jointly did with his friend during the Ebola time.
Oh, this was a remix.
When the president redid that song, but the president was on the first song with Ebola. He was featured on that album. So it was not something that he was doing like he didn't know what
But
he did.
I thought being featured in the song of music is different from being part of it, like playing a role in producing it.
But he was part of it. He was part of the entire layout of the Ebola song.
Okay.
He was part of the song. He was part of the making. He was part of the entire making of that song. So when the coronavirus hit, he thought and he continued to think that there's a project of communication, and he did. He set up the We Are project.
Okay.
First thing was to do the song. The song outlined all of the messaging, the preventive measures that people are to live by and work with on a daily basis. That song is being played. The president again thought that he should go out in his personal initiative, even though he's the head of the country, but there's a government. Now the government is about to distribute rest. That rest will not get President We Have picture on it because it is the government approach. The rest will not carry no political party a picture because that rest is taxpayers' money. It's going to come from the government cover. It's going to go directly to the Liberian people without any picture of any individual on it. But if the president is identifying with people in his community, in the country, and telling us things to his people, and someone say why he's using a We Are project, then I'm also baffled as to why people want to think that way.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Mr. George Lobo. Mr. Lobo, you are live.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. C, and thank you, Dennis. The press secretary, Mr. Smith, thank you for coming on here today. How you doing today, sir?
Yeah, Georgie, how are you? Long time. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm pretty good. Pretty good. I'm doing great. A few questions here for you real quick. I want to get to the point. I'm not going to make a statement. Right. I've been following the show lengthily, and you strike some brilliant points, which I think we need to. I'm going to begin from your last statement about the rights that will be bought will not carry President We Have picture. It will not be political rights. For the state of the record, we know the CDC. Do you recall the 1,243 metric tons of rice that came from the government of China? That was delivered. I'll give you the exact date. The rest was received by the Liberian government April 15, 2018. Do you remember that? The rice that came as emergency food assistance. That rice was never given to the people until we saw the government launch the rice store by the Minister of Commerce. And Liberians have the evidence with the commerce, the Inspector General of Commerce was selling the rice that we saw it in the purple bags. So I would like for you to refer to that because you speaking, I will not see the CDC or the president picture on it. That's one. That's just going to the fact. But I want to go back to something very important that I've not heard you talk about today. As the press secretary, can you please tell us that the initial disbursement from the World Bank that you guys received, 1.5 million and 6.5 million, can you inform the Liberian people how that money has been spent? We have evidence of health workers who worked 30 days and they were at FKD and the government said they would pay them for 12 days. We want to know what the government has used that funding for. And Mr. Toby, if you have the chance, the government stated in President Weah communication that 17 million was received from the World Bank and 15 million from the EU. Can you throw light on those money? What it has been used for? The reason why I will not get to the 25 million because I would appreciate if you can also help us understand the sources of that 25 million. Now we know that the resolution excluded the 25% cut because Liberians were outraged. Where would the government be sourcing the 25 million from and how you guys intend to? So I know you keep telling us rice, but we are yet to see how that distribution will be done. The data that will be used to equally distribute that rice. So please, Mr. Toby, I will greatly appreciate if you can give us the breakdown of what has been done and on the money that received already. And another thing I wanted you to please tell us, the president in his address to the nation told us that he presided over all the meetings of the task force that was established in February to fight this COVID-19. Can you, as press secretary, tell us some of the accomplishment list, some of those accomplishments of the task force in preparing Liberia for where we are today? Now we see that the government is running head to start trying to figure things out. What was achieved in the last 2 months?
Thank you, Mr. Lobo.
Thank you, Josh. You lola it.
Josh gave us a dossier of questions. I will attempt to answer them as my memory will serve me. So the first thing Josh said, the president, yes, presided on over all of the meetings leading us to this fight. Evident to that was that even before the Quest Index case was announced in the country, the president already started holding meetings with all of Liberia partners, the embassies accredited near the capital, the WHO representative in the country, the health team in the country. The reason why the president were holding those meetings was to find out a little bit more as to Liberia preparedness of the health sector. So the president had complete information on the status of Liberia health program in terms of what was in country with PPE, what was here in terms of centers, just in case there was a case. That how even the 14th military hospital was designated for the treatment site. So all of those meetings were held long before the Quest Index case came into the country. It speaks volume of the president engagement with those health practitioners and the preparation of the government ahead of the coronavirus pandemic as was reported to the world. So the president was engaged, he was in those meetings, he was heading those meetings. And based on the several meetings, there was a document prepared by the National Public Health Institute of Liberia. I keep hearing people saying 17 million came and this other million came into the country. No organization will submit or present or give a government a dime without a plan. So I'm aware that the health authority presented a working document to the partners, to include the WHO and all of the other international partners working on health-related issues. So those fundings that have come into the country, I'm not a financial man into the Ministry of Finance, but I know that all of the monies that have come for the purpose of the coronavirus fight. And they are coming because there was a communication or document or work plan or health plan that was submitted to the partners, and the partners are supporting that plan with what they are presenting or contributing towards the plan. So how the monies are being used, how is the breakdown about the financial component of it? I may not give you the appropriate response to that because I'm not in the disbursement of finances as it relates to health-related issue or any financial disbursement. But I'm aware that the president has been engaged with those partners and they've been making meaningful contribution to the health sector. And those fundings are being used for health-related activities because it came for the purpose that had to do with the fight of the coronavirus. So as we progress, the authority responsible is the Ministry of Health, the NTHIL, and the Ministry of Finance. They will, in subsequent time, the head of us give the country the entire breakdown as to the usage of those fundings. But for me to sit here and tell you, say, I'm aware how they've disbursed 5 million of the money, what they've bought with 1,000 of the money, I may not do justice to this conversation. And I'm not interested in running myself into something that I'm not having sufficient knowledge about. I know those contributions that have come from the partners are going towards the health sector, and it's been used according to what those land items that were presented to the partners are supporting Liberia Health Plan. There's a whole plan that was submitted since February to the World Health Organization and other international partners against the fight of coronavirus. That is a whole laid down document. I'm sure it is a public document. You can find that document. You can see what is in the breakdown as to what is needed to put into the Bureau health sectors. So those fundings that are coming into the country are going towards what the international partners are recommending for the usage of their support to the health sector. That money is not coming to President Weah. It's not going to his house. It's not coming to his pocket. It is going towards the fight of the coronavirus. And there was a proof document that the government submitted. And it is based on that document that the international partners are sponsoring Liberia's fight against the coronavirus. So it is not personal money that is coming towards the office of the president.
Just speak to the Chinese rice quickly so we can go to our next caller. We are.
Well, I heard him mention something about Chinese rice in April 2018. That information, Joyce, I may not have followed it like you just outlined, but again, like we said, the rice or the 25 million that is going to come for the national legislature. Again, the president did not submit any document requesting for salary cut to anybody. The president did not recommend in his proposal that people should cut 25% for anyone's salary. That proposal came from another senator, and then it came out to the media as a leaked document. It's good that no document that the president's signature to the national legislature had any proposal of such in it. Again, the rights issue, like we said, it is not going to come in any political bag. It's not going to be carried with any sticker or anyone's name on it because it's taxpayers' money. All the president wants to see is people should be fed during these difficult times.
All right.
Even though it's very difficult to distinguish the president's project and his national duty, so it's very fine line. I don't know how we draw that, but let's leave it there. There was also a question about Liberians being ill-treated in China. And we also have a lot of Liberian students. I don't know. We see a lot of bad images on video.
I think what I've also learned in this entire thing is that there is a diplomatic conversation around this. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, headed by Minister Messenger Milton Finlay, has been on top of that conversation with the Chinese counterpart. and making sure it is not just for Liberians. We are hearing about African in China. So
is there any truth to the story that we see?
Well, we are all following it like you are hearing it. So it is a developing story, and as they develop, the government gets involved with it.
Thank you. We got a lot of callers. We'll just take two more, and then because we can't keep the honorable man for so long. So, Mr. CA.
Yeah, let's bring in William Bro, man, joining us from France, who I know is a supporter of the government.
Old time friend, William Bro threw me away.
Mr. Bro, you are live.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My friend.
Yes, hi there to all of you, including Mr. Toby.
My former friend, how are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm okay, sir. Now let me make few corrections before coming to the point. The Popo right was never personal law. Popo is the national agenda. So let Mr. Lobo know that the national agenda can reflect on anything that would be under this administration. Even the package that come in the Popo can reflect. It is the national agenda. So that it was on our rights. Then the first day going out of the country, I'm in France. I interact with Timothy most of the time. Timothy is not in France. Timothy is in the U.S. He got through surgery there. So his mother went there to take care of him. Timothy have no wife, so don't doubt it. Then that comes to the issue of members of the legislature building the schools and other things. And one caller said, you will only be useless to work for $15,000 every month for more than 12 years to 15 years, and you cannot build anything as a legacy. You don't have to be corrupt money. You can keep some and build. So maybe if you're in the U.S., you're earning enough money and you are unable to build kitchen for yourself in Liberia, others are not like that.
Come on, William. You have a question?
Then let's come to the issue of the president.
The person was just asking question. You're taking it as a fight, man. Come on, bro. Slow down.
Ask your question, William.
No, the issue is how you will keep accusing people of corruption while they are earning money.
Right.
People who earn money can carry on a personal project, like the president. The president earns money per month. Paid by the Liberian taxpayer money.
Thank you, William.
So why do you think he cannot carry on his own project?
Just
Let's come to the next issue.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. The president must brief the country every time on coronavirus. That's compulsory. In Europe, we live. 90% of the country here, the president who talk on coronavirus, gives that responsibility to the head authority to do so. So if the U.S. president doing it, don't duplicate it with Liberia. In U.S., thousands of people per day. In Liberia, only one. After 1 week can die. So it's not the same case.
Okay.
Then let's come to the issue. Mr. Toby, let me advise you to please tell the president that this particular package, I have major problem with the issue of the loan. Let them be careful because there are some people who may carry on some criminal act. Some people could transfer the private loan to business loans. So let the people be very careful with it and vigilant. And I will also urge the president to put Popo on the rights. It will not be a photo, but a national agenda should reflect on the rights or every other supply that will be given to the Liberian people. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Jah, let's take one more. Let me see who have been here the longest. We have so many calls. I wish we could take them all.
215 area code, 1830.
1830. All right.
Your name and where you calling from, brother? No, I don't know if you're brother.
No, you don't know that, so.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Franklin Montgomery calling from Kelly, Texas.
Your
How
name
you doing?
Franklin Montgomery. He's always following us here. I see him all the time.
Go ahead, Franklin.
Yeah. My question going to Smith again. Smith, what really interesting you to take the job of the government because we follow you during the time you are on. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Toby said laughing at you.
Yeah, we follow him during the time. Okay, FM, we should listen to him. How he was very advocating for the country and the citizen and the way the government was running things. But for us who live in Western country, if you very technical against government and you get the type of job, you'll be critical to really take the job because you have to look at the channel of the government.
So I really want for him to tell us what intuition, what encouraging for him to take that job for the government.
Thank you.
And my second question, does the president, George, we and the vice president are very working together because we saw the sharing of the bucket. We saw the president sharing the bucket with a picture on it, and we saw the vice president sharing the bucket with a picture on it. And we can actually see the two people are actually maybe going for conference or informing the citizen what situation is going on. So the type of instance is getting all confused. And my third question is concerning about our first lady because we're really, really concerned about our first lady.
We discussed that
already. No, I can't hear all the answer that. I want Fatima to tell me the mean day the first lady left Liberia.
Thank you.
And the day Timothy Weah received injury. So the day Timothy Weah received injury February 16th.
Thank you.
2020.
Thank you. He will address that. We want to take another caller.
So I want Fatima to tell us.
All right, Mr. Jai, you want me to take one more?
Yeah.
All right, let me take this one here. Caller with phone number ending in 6152. Caller, are you there?
Yes, 5152. Yes, I'm here.
All right, quickly to the issue.
Hello?
Yes, quickly. You have 1 minute.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Nya, and I'm calling from Nya Bulule, and I'm calling from the state of Indiana.
Okay.
And my question to Mr. Toby in studio, Mr. Toby, I want to say thank you for taking all your time to inform on national issues. Thank you. But my question is on the update of the president about crisis in the country. It happened during the time where the U.S. rate was going on high, the economy was down. The president refused to talk to the people. Is the president afraid to talk to his people in times of crisis like this, or what? What is happening to the president? Because we look up to our leader in times like this. All of us have a lot of anxiety about what's going on around us. When our leaders come out and talk to us, at least we have a little bit of ease of anxiety than where we are right now. Is the president really afraid to talk to us in times of crisis like this? What is going on with the president in talking to his people?
Thank you.
That's my question.
Thank you. We want to rush through here, Mr. The callers are Mr. Toby, please jot your numbers down. Let Asuni take more callers.
Yeah. And if you can't answer them all, my brother, it's not for us. So let's take our man Tobasi, the man Tobasi.
Tobasi get 30 seconds.
Yeah, Tobasi, my man, let's go quickly, bro.
That my brother, please, I can cut his time off.
Well, Mr. Toby, thank you for coming today, Mr. Jai, and here, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Toby, according to Dr. Toby Nyonswa, during the Ebola crisis, the government of Helen Johnson Sirleaf received $2 billion United States dollars to $12 billion. Now, my question here today is that after an epidemic or health crisis, we as a country are supposed to learn from it, study from it, and put measures in place that will guard future pandemic or epidemic. Question: the Haley administration leave any emergency supplies of PPE, such as gloves, masks, and hand sanitizers, in storage that this government can use in terms or in the event of an epidemic? They hardly need any supply, market supply.
Thank you. Your 30-second finish.
Yeah. Let's take this one from my home state of Minnesota. Call quickly. 612. Ending in 533084. Quickly.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just calling to make a statement. I've been listening since you guys been live, and I just been having an issue with Smith Toby not being direct with his answer, and so as the listener, it's pretty frustrating.
And by the way, I'm calling from Minnesota. So, if Toby
Your
can
name,
just
please.
the question and answer the question as a counselor, and that'll be very helpful because I'm not really getting anything out of what he's saying. It seems like he's just gushing around, going around the questions that are being asked, especially the questions that were asked by Mr. Local not long ago.
And your name? All
My
right.
name is Jerry.
All right.
Minnesota.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Smith is loaded right there, but run through them quickly. We want to wrap things up here.
Well, ready, loaded, and I would just go to a few of them shortly. There was a caller who talked about the Toby issue. Whether I know that the past administration from Ebola, what they actually did on some of those funding that they collected, they managed to set up the National Public Health Institute. That National Public Health Institute came into real function during the former President Salif administration. Today, there's a facility there. There's a lab that was set up. And so whether that came out of some of the major funding from the past administration from donors, but at least it put our health sector into some position. And like I said, when the news of COVID-19 started, some of the meetings the president attended and chair was to know what was in country in terms of those basic things that the medical doctors, the medical staff would need. And that's how we even got to know what was in country in relations to PPE, our testing ability, and those things that were needed as hands-on for the combat of the coronavirus. So whether those monies were properly accounted for, but at least there is a National Public Health Institute that is functional, that is working, and some of the same faces and individuals who ran that system are still around. They are currently in authority, and they are working with the current administration in making sure that the system works very well. So whether it was what were being received from the past administration, but all I can say to that effect is that the National Public Health Institute is one of the major institutions that is in the country that came after the Ebola, and that was donor funded, and now it is staying in existence and is working under this current administration in running the tests and cases that are now being reported. I hear people still talk about the president should speak to the nation and whether the president is afraid to speak to the nation. No, the president is not afraid to speak to the nation. The president has spoken to the nation. The president has declared a state of emergency. The nation is being briefed. This is a health-related issue. Those who are with the authority to speak to those issues are the president, lieutenant. The president know there is a capable minister of health. There is a capable director of the National Public Health Institute. There is a capable minister of information. Those in authority are briefing the nation daily. The nation is informed on a daily basis on as to what is taking place in the country as it relates to the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. So it is not for the president to speak to you every day. What you see happen in the West may not be the same situation here in our country. Like one caller said, people in the West are reporting cases in the thousands, with death reported in the hundreds every day. Those leaders are constrained to speak to those issues to build the confidence. Our president is also holding those similar conversations, and those who are responsible are briefing the president, and they are briefing the nation. When there is a need, like the president did, because we had a situation that was developing and the president announced a state of emergency, at those points or in those kind of a conversation, the president will speak to the nation. The president will always speak to his
Mr.
people.
Smith.
So it is not for people
Mr. Toby?
to think that the president is afraid to speak to the nation when there is an emergency. The president has spoken and he will continue to speak when there is a need for the president to speak.
Mr. Toby, what will it require for the president to speak a little more frequently? People love to hear from him.
Yeah, why it is true that people love to hear from the president. People also should be aware that the president is also not just there to be speaking to the nation on the issue. The president should be finding solution to the situation on the ground. The president should be holding meetings like it is right now. There's a lot of visual meetings that the president is having. He's not having those one-on-one meeting any longer. He's meeting people like we are doing and finding solution to the problem. That should be the work of the president at this very crucial stage. That to come on the public glare every day and speak and speak and speak. If the president comes tomorrow and speak, Corona will not be all of the country. If the president engage the international community and engage partner and engage the health workers to put a hands on the virus and see how they are fighting this virus, it's going to help the situation.
All right, Mr. Jai.
Yeah, you want to bring Steve Boley?
We're gonna bring in Steve Boley. He's been making a lot of comments.
Right.
Mr.
I just want to mention that Steve has challenged us. If we bring Mr. Toby, we should bring somebody to challenge him. And I urge him to call in. So, Steve, Mr. Toby is the press secretary of the Republic of the Republic
Deputy
of
press
Liberia.
secretary, please.
I mean, the deputy press secretary. So we bring him in to hear from the mansion. So we don't have to bring in someone to debate with him, but you can call in and express your opinion, ask your question. So go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Jai, and thanks to Mr. T as well and Smith Toby there.
Little volume, please.
You guys. I'd like to always say thank you to all of you guys out there today. I like to always start off by saying that Liberian people are the most important people, and so when we come to disseminate information, whether you're in the opposition or you're for the government, I think it's important for us to let them know the facts.
Can you speak a little louder?
You can hear me?
Okay, better.
Hello?
It's better now.
I said the Liberian people are the most important people. So every time we have the opportunity to speak to them, it's important that we speak facts, truth, so that they can be informed and aware. I also want to point out that Liberian women are the most beautiful women. All of you guys in there know it as a fact because we all are married to Liberian women. But I got one concern, a question from Mr.
I think Smith doesn't believe that.
He's on record. Yes, he's on record for that. You can't deny that. So, but let's get to the issue here. The issue is a few weeks ago, Smith was on here, and I asked Smith directly, where is the report for the gas saga that was missing in our country that almost a week or more, the Liberian people did not have gas. And there was that big old commotion, and Smith was on the website. I went on the website, I've checked there, it's not there. For me, I would call him out as he lied. But let me get to something that Smith said here today about the First Lady. About the First Lady leaving Liberia. Timothy Weah got injured on the 17th of February, to be exact. Go to the team's website. Let me say something to the Liberian people. When people are playing professional football or soccer and they get injured, there is a group of teams that manage them. Your parents don't need to come there because Timothy Weah is not on age. Timothy Weah is a 21-year-old man. He's not on age. So, if his injury is a hamstring, the hamstring takes about 2 to 3 weeks to be healed. Go on Timothy Weah page right now, you will see when he was asked about his recovery, he said it was just a setback in a comeback, which tells me and you that Timothy Weah, when the league opens, he's ready to return. How can we reconcile that with the president's wife, which is the first lady, leading our country in Corona season, and Smith Toby is on here making excuses and lying about it? That is my only concern I have for him. Can he please reconcile the timing he left for Liberia and to the timing of February 14th? And did the club contact his mom to come and care for him in America? If so, I will challenge him the next time and bring the facts on here so that we can know that there is no need for him to lie to the Liberian people. Say the truth, and we will work with the truth. Thank you so much.
Mr. Boley. What's wrong with the president's or the first lady not being in the country? What's the problem with that?
Goodbye.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Toby. He left.
Look, let me just say, sometimes we accept some of these questions, but I'm not sure Mr. Bore is actually understanding my point here, and there's no need to argue or fight about his claim. All right. So I'm giving you my information. If you are having another set of information according to you or your professional circle life, the callers or the individuals who've been asking about the president, I'm just providing you what I know about the president and her current location and what took her out of the country. The president did not leave the country during the heat of the coronavirus. The president left from here before we even got corona come to the country. And I'm sure because of all of the many travels restriction, flight restriction, she's not having time to return to the country. But the purpose of a departure from the country was to be by the side of her son, who was on an injury. And that situation, I'm not sure it is the same as it is when she left, but that is the situation. And even as she's out of the country, her office is still involved with the fight, like I said. So it is not for someone to tell me when Timothy sustained injury and when his mother left the country and who's responsible for. No, some parents got some very strong love for the kid, and the president got so much love for her son. She's always, even when he's playing some very good game, she sometimes goes and see him play. So that's the connection between mother and the son.
All right.
So for someone to tell me how the president should relate to her son when there is a situation with her son, it is not the bigger picture of the country. Even though she's not in country, but she's engaged with the fight. She's sending back all contribution. Her office is meeting their obligation to the less fortunate, and
Thank
she's
you.
working from her current location.
All right.
Can you also say the man who get a woman, the men are complaining?
Well, you can't cry more than the bereaved.
All right. Cry more than the bereaved. I don't know who is the bereaved yet. I mean, I think the Liberian people are bereaved, but I will leave it right there. And I have my final question for Mr. Toby, and we are talking about Nambodiki.
Wambodike. Mr. Toby,
Wambodike.
please, let's be sure that you don't Wambodike the situation. Go ahead,
So
Mr. Smith.
I hope this question I'm about to ask you, Mr. Smith, you're not going to Wambodiki your way out of it. But on a serious note, Smith, many Liberians have called on the president uh, to withdraw the appointment or even fire Councillor Nambodiki because it has been proven that he told so many lies about his citizenship in Liberia. And I believe is on the basis the president put his nomination to be the head of NEST, but this guy is still serving as the head of the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. One of such persons who called on the president personally in a written open letter is Alva Tuba. He's calling on his president to fire him. Not only that, he also calling on the president to withdraw the nomination of Mary Bro and Fina Boto. What's the last name? Fina Bono. Yeah. So is that something the president going to listen to? I mean, I really want the president to fire this Nambodiki guy. That guy has duped the whole country. He lied to everybody. He defrauded our entire system. And the president should act. We're talking about somebody at the Anti-Corruption Commission. It speaks volumes.
So I will hold you at this point because both of us want to hold a little conversation on this one. It is good that the issue with Nambodiki came to the glare on this administration. But are we all concerned as to how he even navigated his way through all of the...
No, Mr. Smith, the question is, are we concerned how he Nambodiki his way? Not navigate.
Not navigate. Use the word Namodiki.
So, are you all concerned how he navigated his way through all of our system?
Yes.
And from not just the administration, right?
Yes.
Right.
So
We are
even
concerned.
Yes.
even to the point that he is represented Liberia at the ECOWAS court.
Yes, we're concerned.
And he's been a very active player. And when this conversation starts like this, sometimes, in my view, I equally put the blame back on the national legislature. And someone may ask me why. Because if the national legislature, especially the Liberian Senate, were to raise this vigorous research issue on Mr. Namodiki when he's got his first nomination by the president, the issue of Namodiki going to the National Elections Commission would have been history.
Right. Mr. Smith, we get that. We get all the way Namodiki is. We are here now. What is the president going to do?
Well, I think the first thing the president have done, as per the conversation around his appointment to the national legislature, was to withdraw his nomination.
Right. We're talking LACC. He's still at LACC.
Again, he got confirmed by the Liberian Senate for LACC.
Right.
Can the president ask for a resignation from him?
Again, at LACC, it's a tenure position.
That's why I'm saying resignation. The president can demand that.
So it's an entire conversation that is on the table.
Mr.
Now, just listen. Listen,
yeah,
I'm just trying to.
Because if it is confirmed that he committed crimes in the process, tell me out of the door.
Granted. So that is a conversation right now. I'm told that he's been communicated to by the Liberia Bar Association. He's been investigated. So based on all of those investigations, will lead to a funding. But if the Liberian Senate confirm him for a job at LACC, and he's currently being investigated, based on the investigation, the outcome of that investigation determine his next fate.
So are you saying he's currently being investigated for those lies and the way Namodiki is way?
Oh, I'm told that the Liberia Bar Association have set up a committee to investigate the issue of his nationality. Right. So that is an ongoing that is an ongoing investigation.
We want to know what the president is doing about this. This man is still on the job.
The president, in my mind, currently, the only thing I know the president have done is that the president have withdrawn his nomination for NEC.
And you said that. We're talking about LACC now. What is the president doing about it? Can he at least ask for the guy's resignation?
The president should ask. The president will ask when there's a report that will justify what the allegations against him. If those allegations are substantiated, the president will act based on those investigations. But the president have not commissioned an investigation, but a team of professional colleagues in the
look at what you just said. Up to now, the president is yet to commission an investigation into this character. Does the president understand that this character being on the job that he appointed, it also speaks to his character?
No, that is not a reading like you see it. So if the president appointed the character, as you mentioned, the character, and the character was confirmed by the Liberian Senate, the Senate and has given him a piece of job until all of those allegations are proven. All the allegations that were mentioned against that was said against Namodiki,
right,
were allegations that were still under investigation, and the president withdrew the nomination.
Do you know why the president withdrew his nomination?
Because his nomination became controversial. His nomination to the position became controversial. His nomination to the position brought in a lot of play and counterplay of different scenarios. So the president could not allow that to happen under his watch. But shouldn't
that spark an investigation instead of abdicating his role to to the Bar Association to investigate?
The president did not set up the bar to investigate. The bar himself said that they were going to do that investigation.
He has abdicated his responsibility. If you say, if you withdrew his nomination because of the circumstances surrounding, or those dubious circumstances surrounding his citizenship, wouldn't the president launch his own investigation instead of waiting for what the Bar Association is going to say?
So if the Liberian Senate saw him legible to be the head of LACC and confirm him,
that was then.
And deny him of being the chair of the National Elections Commission, it goes back to LACC and all other investigation starts from there.
And the thing is, this man was not investigated and was withdrawn. Why would the president need investigation to ask for his resignation? At least to ask for resignation is simple.
Because those allegations need to be proven. So those who are making the allegation and those who are currently investigating the allegation need to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that their allegations are substantiated.
All right. Smith, there's a saying that I hear from my partner here, Dennis Ja, that usually when people storm their toe, they try to blame where they fall, but they don't look at where they storm their toe. I mean,
No, that's
so
not the case.
President is the one who appointed him. That's why he was confirmed by the Senate. So my next question is, does the president do any vetting or background check on individuals before appointing them?
No. So when the president nominates you to the Liberian Senate, the Senate is also with the authority to do the counter. So that is why the Constitution even appropriated some of the president's power to the Liberian Senate.
I agree with you, Smith, but what I'm saying, does the president do any vetting at all before sending somebody, or he can just send anybody?
How you think the president appoints people? Yes, he does that.
And so he never caught Nabodiki by the pants.
The president may not see everything. The president may use 2 eyes. He may use 2 eyes to see your document. That document go to the Senate. They got 30 eyes that see that document.
The eyes saw something, and the president
saw something,
but the president is not acting on it.
So they saw something, and the president withdrew what they saw based on the.
And let the president use that same thing to ask for his resignation, at least.
All right.
Okay, so when we reaches that point, that will happen. But at this point,
okay.
All right, Mr. Smith, this is why I'm going to share with you.
There's 1 minute.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
The same 30 eyes, the same 30 eyes saw Namodiki as a very clean gentleman. And I think based on the confidence they reposed in him when he was first nominated, gave the president the coverage when there was a vacancy for the head of the National Elections Commission. Like I said, if this due diligence were to be done at the initial stage when he was first nominated, the issue of Namodiki could have been history. But because some people also did not do their job, now they've done their job, and they want the president to act based on what they've done. So since they confirmed him as head of LACC, he's gone back to LACC.
All right, Mr. Smith, final question on Nambodikiism. Are you aware how many times the president has appointed him? Do you know how many times?
2 times.
No, not only 2 times. More than 2. He was appointed for NOCA. He was appointed by the president to head that commission, that committee that investigated the NOCA money when Global Witness blew that alarm. And then he was appointed again.
It was not President Weir administration. The NOCAD investigation started under President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So
no. My memories have been well. That was when Mr. Weir took over. When that alarm was blew, Mr. Weir constituted that committee. Anyway, let's leave it there. Nambodiki will always be Nambodiki. But my recommendation to the president is at least ask for this man resignation. If you don't have the boss to forward him, to send him forward for criminal investigation, at least ask for a resignation.
And Mr. Smith, does the president bear any responsibility in this whole Nambodiki fracas, or nothing at all?
Any responsibility?
Yeah.
No, nothing at all.
All right, thank you.
All right. On that note, folks, in cyberspace, we want to say thank you for following our broadcast yet, you have been watching Primetime Sunday Special, and the program is Q&A with Deputy Presidential Press Secretary Smith Toby. Anytime we say Press Secretary, man, say, my man, don't get me in trouble with my boss. So, folks, we want to say thank you. This is Focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. All of our programs here are always on YouTube. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, like our Facebook page so that when Smith is here and any other professional guests are here, you will get a notification for you to learn from us what they have to say. And on that note, I will turn it over to my partner here, Mr. Ja.
Thank you again, Mr. Smith Toby, for coming. And there were people here like you. One of them is putting you against somebody else. He said, Mr. Smith Toby, you are better of a spokesperson than Eugene L. Fagon. They're still putting you in more fire, Mr. Toby.
Oh, I don't want to be in that kind of fire.
But we want to thank you so much for coming, and we are always glad to have you. There are so many comments here. If you have your spare time, please go through our comments and respond to us.
No, this is the thing I love about communication. So I'm on the show, I'm reading the comments, I'm also following the comments. So let me say thanks to all of the viewers, and this is what makes our society better. We can disagree professionally. You don't have to agree with me. Once we are not abusive and we are exchanging ideas, all we are currently doing from our individual point is to make Liberia better. You don't have to disagree with my view or with my position or my comments or my defense for the government. This is where I find myself. I'm doing a piece of job. I hope you understand that I'm doing a piece of job. So it is not about your position and my position. I'm communicating with you. I've done this for years. I will continue to do this. Let me say thanks to all of you for following us since we started.
Yep.
Thanks to the two giants for again holding me in here. I hope to be back here sometime soon. And we can continue our discussion as usual. Thanks. I always enjoy my time with the both of you. It's always my pleasure. And we hope we can see sometime very soon.
And we really, really enjoy it. At 6 o'clock, we're going to have Mr. Ambrose R. Russell here. He has a project called the Inner Hero Project. He's going to be here to talk about it. That's our youth mentorship program. At Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Continue to follow us, continue to support us, continue to watch us. And your suggestions, we are very open to your suggestions. If there's any topic you want us to discuss, please don't hesitate to drop us a line. If you have some guests you want to refer to us so that we can break things down, or if you want to debate somebody, you can be playing Banasville and play in Douala and all the places. You got to go play on Tusafi so for us to know that you can play. So if you think you can debate, let's do it here on Focus on Liberia. Until then, okay. Mr. Sia, you can close us.
All right. And folks, that will do it. And we want to remind you that COVID-19 is real. Keep safe and stay safe out there, and make sure you protect your family as well. This is our closing song saying to you, bye-bye.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home.